Hi. So the original idea for the business is to help kill off the traditional energy model and help people get off grid. So it sounds a bit far-fetched, but there are actually already a few people doing that. So what does that actually mean? Well, firstly, it means that there are alternatives that are out there that some years ago were kind of expensive or just didn't make any sense to people, but now they're actually very viable. Storage, home energy management, the ability to optimize what appliances using energy at what times and what's flowing to and from the grid. And now storage, which is becoming an increasingly big topic in Australia, I think it's fair to say, and it's certainly been a big topic in the world for a while, and it's really hit these shores recently. So I think there are now, for the first time in many decades, some actual viable alternatives to a traditional model where customers have just been price takers on the end of a market that they don't understand, they can't control, they can't influence, which is just got increasingly expensive for reasons that are sometimes a little bit clear and sometimes very opaque, in fact, often very opaque. Naturally, it's led to some sort of confusing behavior in terms of the way customers buy energy, in terms of the way they get billed for energy. I just don't think this is the sort of model that we need in the future. So now, ultimately, I'd love to kill off that traditional model, but we're actually doing it by starting out as an energy retailer. So we've got ourselves a license because we figure you can have a lot of technology, but very few customers are willing to say, hey, that's great, I've got all this stuff, so snip the wire. I'm good, I'm independent, I'm on my own. Very few, there are a few, but very few at the moment are willing to really cut that umbilical cord to having access to energy on a really hot or a really cold day, when what they are able to generate at home isn't sufficient to cover their usage. So having that retail component still is really critical. Now, we started with that for two reasons. Firstly, it's ubiquitous and it's being done really badly at the moment with confusing, made-up discounts, just some really bad behavior, and retail margins really having grown over a long period of time. The second is that it's actually the hardest to get going. So getting solar on someone's house, integrating a battery, optimizing the flow between all of those things, it's actually relatively straightforward compared to setting up a set of billing systems, licenses, interaction with the market operator, meter reading data that's flowing around between the market, and compliance with literally thousands of regulatory obligations. They're the bits that make up the retail component. Now, if you can get those bits right, frankly, you can get anything right because it's a real pig of a thing to start. So that's where we've started. We can hopefully save some customers from the current crap that they're getting in the market that is confusing them and not giving them a fair deal. And meanwhile, we can use our retail platforms to then integrate with some of the technology providers, of which we're talking with a number right now, so that we can help bundle and bring their fantastic offerings to market with that integrated customer piece, so that customers can benefit from the sort of technology that they're bringing, but without having to cut that umbilical cord just yet. Advice I'd give myself, I'm actually really hard on myself. I'm pretty hard on my team as well. Sorry for those of you that are watching. Hopefully they're not. So yeah, look, I beat myself up about a lot of stuff. I expect things to be fantastic. I expect them to be great from day one. I expect us to have real success from day one. And naturally, as a startup, that's just not going to happen. You come out of a corporate environment where people will return your phone calls and hound you because they want to talk to you because you've got millions of customers they want to access. And then you're in a startup and you're thinking, shit, why is no one returning my call? So from simple things like that, where you can really start to go, God, this isn't working. This is a disaster. And then literally 24 hours later, you'll think, yeah, this is great. This is really going to work. This is fantastic. So it is that real roller coaster, which I read somewhere as sort of a mix of euphoria and terror, probably 90% the latter. And I guess in a big corporate, you're sort of used to having a lot of people around you. So, if you need to get something done, you can get something done. And if you need to just have a coffee with a colleague that really understands everything that's going on and you can just talk things through or get something off your chest, you can. There's plenty of people around. So it's quite a lonely position. And I think you've got to be pretty prepared for that and pretty prepared to find some of that resilience within yourself rather than necessarily leaning on other people to help you get through some of those times where you just need someone to give you a slap and go, shut up. You know what? You've been trying this particular approach, or you've had this particular product or partnership in play for 24 hours. So of course it's not going to work yet. So get over yourself. But you don't have that sort of person or those people around you, certainly at first, who are able just to have enough insight to keep you on the straight and narrow. So if you are the sort of person that's really hard on yourself, then that can be quite a tough period. Until you start making progress and you start seeing things starting to come good. The second thing is, I'd say, just have a quick search around at the outset and pick things that are good enough. I wasted untold amounts of time just focusing on what is the right project management software, what is the right email system, where do we get our computers from, how do we manage logins, just all of that crap, that admin, which is dull. It's not going to drive your business forward. It's not going to help a customer. It's not going to make you money, but it's just fundamental that you've got to get set up. How do you get Google Drive sharing permissions right? Just simple admin stuff. I'm actually going to write something on that at some point soon to help other startup founders out, because I don't know how much time I wasted trying all these different things out until I got into the kind of rhythm of using them. So the more you can just get some quick advice on admin and just say it's good enough. And if it's not perfect, you know what, it'll do for now. We'll worry about it in the future. And the third thing I'd say is just be bold at getting your name out there. It's not something I'm very good at. There are some founders, I think, that are great at just getting out there and really shouting, and they do it in a way that says to me they have absolutely no self-awareness whatsoever. So it's not really the sort of approach that I want to take, but it seems to be necessary. Because as a startup founder, 99.999999% of people haven't heard of us. And it's kind of expected. That's kind of okay, because I'm not going to waste $20 million trying to advertise something just to get brand awareness ticking up a little bit, and consideration ticking up a little bit less, and then you still have to go through the very direct approach to reach customers. I'm just not going to waste that sort of money. But consequently, you've got to take some more aggressive kind of tactics to get your name out there. So it's something that I'm still working on. It's something that I'm saying this now because I'm actually giving myself advice by saying this rather than to you. But look, if you can just drop that self-awareness, have the approach of who gives a toss what people think, just do it, just get your name out there. Any opportunity you can, just shout. And if people don't like it in certain situations, tough shit, but at least you're getting your name out there. So that'd be my biggest bits of advice for anyone getting into this right now.